Welcome back, Nele Wohlatz.
Thank you. There are so many microphones.
I know. Anyone can also come up and answer questions. Maybe want to start off by talking about the scene, maybe a little past halfway through in the film, where there's a group in the park, some from Xiaobin's Spanish class, and this other guy who's the actor. And there's this whole sort of prolonged scene about acting and theater, and that, for me, sort of ties in this theme that's sort of sprinkled throughout about theatricality and theater. Maybe could you just start by talking about that and the way that it plays a role in the film?
Yeah. Sorry about my English. I'm a little bit nervous because I'm not so used to talking English about the film. At the beginning, when I started to develop the film, and I started to interview foreigners in Buenos Aires who were studying in this school where we filmed and where I was teaching German. The Chinese Spanish students did a play, like for the end of the school year. It was like a typical school play. It was not really interesting as a play, but there was something very interesting for me because the text was a classical Chinese theater play, and someone translated a piece. And these people were in this moment where they were really starting to learn this new language, and they had not only these problems of memorizing vocabulary and all this stuff, but really to go through this physical process of learning the new language, like these other sounds, like something physical, no, not only intellectual, but really with the body. You really have to learn and train how to generate these other sounds. And so everyone went to the front of the stage, said his text, which was a fiction, which had nothing to do with their lives. But at the same time, this drama of someone who just migrated and who's right now in this moment of translating him or herself, and who's really struggling physically with the new language, was so powerful. And I thought that this would be good to capture somehow this tone for the film, where you really wouldn't know so much if someone is acting strange because he's not a professional actor, or if he's acting strange because he really doesn't feel this new language, and he really is in this moment of finding himself and his new role in this new language. And I think at the end of this journey, you somehow created a new identity in your new language. But all the way is like an actor who has a text and who tries to memorize the text, but also tries to embody this new role and has to figure out how to do this. So there's something very like acting and learning a new language for me is very connected. So this was the idea.
And the Chinese students who are learning Spanish in the film, they're actors, or they're students you're working with from the school?
Yeah, they were students, but in the process of developing, first, like at the beginning, I started to spend a lot of time with Xiaobin and to collect material for the script. Like, she was living her life, which was more or less the period we afterwards filmed, and I was collecting material and started to write the script. But at one point I wondered how she could embody and how she could act herself. So we started to make acting classes, and then we did this also for the students at the school. So we did a theater workshop. So yeah.
So that doubled as a continuing Spanish workshop and an acting workshop? Yeah, great. I was very struck by the in the early scenes when they're all speaking with each other. There's this amazing, except for the woman with the bangs who's really expressive. Everyone else is like completely affectless. Where did you come from? Do you have pets? And I was curious where that came from, if that was directional, if that was nervousness, if that was trying to mimic what that kind of class felt like, or what that pedagogy was like,
Yeah, but I mean, these are not realistic Spanish classes, but when you open a book for learning any language, it offers you these dialogues which are fiction, because they say one bread and one coffee, please. But you're not in a grocery store. You're in a classroom, so it's already a lie, and you have to act in order to convince yourself about learning this possible dialogue. But at the beginning, the gap between the book and the real life is so big, and somehow we wanted the film to start to show this very, very big gap, and then slowly become more organic.
When you moved to Argentina several years ago now, did you have Spanish completely already, or you knew that you were already familiar? You didn't have to go through a similar kind of process, or?
No, not in that way, because I already spoke Spanish, but anyway, I felt very disabled as the film director, because you really need a very organic relationship with the language, in order to be able to direct people in their language. And I felt like there was not really a sense to direct people whose mother tongue would be Spanish and who interchange so much more information than what I get. So I really didn't know from which point of view film Buenos Aires, until one day I thought, from the only possible point I can tell, which is the point of view of a foreigner. And so this was a little bit the starting point for the film. And then I feel like Xiaobin and I are a little bit like day and night also. And for me, the first 2 years were very hard. I mean, I spoke German, but Spanish, but I found it really hard to find myself there. And she's so pragmatic and just going forward and curious and trying out things. So it was fun to bring our two experiences together.
I want to bring out a little more her relationship with Vijay, and especially there's been many stories about lovers who don't speak the same language and have to communicate other ways. But I'm so fascinated by the fact that they, for the most part, choose to try to speak this language they both know very little of, and so there's this. It's like they don't even revert to physical, gestural communication, or they seem like you have to just sort of take their word for it that the romance is progressing, or take your word for it that the romance is progressing. I'm really interested in that, how that develops for you.
Yeah. I felt a little bit the same while they were progressing. I mean, he's not my invention. He's in the film because he was her boyfriend, and all this time I was developing the process and the film. And while the film was progressing, their relationship was supposed to be progressing. But I always wondered why. And I thought that it's not. At one point, I thought that it's not my. I don't really have to know why. No, you don't. I mean, who would I be if I would know everything? Like, it would be a very boring film if I would try to tell you everything. No, I mean. But I found some points that interested me, which were like. This fact of building up a relationship because of your shared disability to speak with others. But then I also thought that the film was not a love story. It was something that happened in Xiaobin's life in that moment, but that he was also a big provocation against her parents. Although they didn't know, and although both of them had to keep their relationship in secret. I thought that somehow it had much more to do with her parents than with him and with my concept of love, no? Yeah, but then also sometimes people ask me why I didn't make the film with another German foreigner or another European foreigner, and I found it very interesting to work with someone who's from a culture so different from mine and so different from the country where I'm living now in, that it's already clear that I won't understand everything, because the film somehow is about this distance between yourself and your new society and this few moments of connection, which is a little bit, I think, what happens to all of us every day in our life. But when we are with our friends or partners or sisters or fathers or whatever, we tend to forget that, no? So I preferred to work with someone who, from the beginning, is clearly very different from me, and to enjoy the few moments of connection.
Can start to take questions. Right here.
Yeah, the backstory actually she's telling in the beginning, in this oral examen, where the teacher is taking her past tense, and they left her as a child in China in order to migrate to Argentina to open a store. Like, they are from a province called Fujian, and there's like this migration corridor between Fujian and Buenos Aires. So her father were two of a lot of Chinese who went to Argentina and built up a business there, and just left her in charge of other family members, which people told me is quite not so uncommon in China. Like, also there's a lot of migration inside China, where parents would go to another place because of work and leave their only child, with the grandparents, no? And then they had these other children already in Argentina, and brought her when she was ready with the school. And that they didn't greet her, she wanted to say they didn't hug her. Because this was something I asked her at one point, how was this moment of, and like, yeah, there's just this different behavior that you wouldn't hug yourself in the public space, each other, I wanted to say. What do I want to say? About... Yeah, what I found very interesting was that she had this opportunity to go to Buenos Aires, but she had no concept of Buenos Aires, no stereotypes or cultural ideas like tango or football or meat, because her parents live a very isolated life inside the Chinese community, and really don't interchange with the people from Argentina. And for her, it was totally the same to go to Argentina, and at the beginning to go to Buenos Aires or to New York or to some other big city. The only important thing for her was to go away from China, because they are from a social class without the possibility to move from there inside China. And for her, the big cities like the opportunity to do something else. Actually, she started university last week. But for me, it was very interesting to, and so this is why I somehow tried to show the city from this anonymous point of view, because she, at the beginning, she doesn't share her own history with the city, and it doesn't matter if it's Buenos Aires. So we really tried to leave out these typical landmarks and to concentrate on very few locations which have a pragmatic function for the newly arrived, and to repeat these locations and also search for locations which are quite empty and only have these few visual elements you need to detect that this is a school, this is a restaurant. We tried this inside our small budget to somehow have this concept, and also thinking that she, like, everything has to start from scratch for her. Like the city is a city without history. She's a person without history in her new place and for her new society. The spaces are anonymous, and the same that happens with her new language happens with all her habits and her ways. Now everything, she has to create a new ABC, like also spatial and visual. So we somehow try to have this in mind while filming the city.
So the question is about the visual palette, the choice to make the colors more faded, and about the pacing of the film.
Yeah, it came from this idea I said before, that we really we really tried to show void locations and somehow empty the space in order to make up a stage where she can like empty everything and start from scratch. So, and her relation with the city doesn't have any, is not profound at the beginning. It's like for me in these days in New York, like everything looks like the postcards or the photos I've seen all my life, and I feel like I'm still not getting deep into this. Is like for me it's a feeling I have when I come to a new city. And so this is why we try to somehow reduce really the visual informations and to make this kind of perspectives where you only see, like, you get to know the city through her eyes, no? You don't see more than she is seeing. So, and also this is why, and I felt like these vanished colors would help a little bit to reduce information. I'm not sure if I'm really happy about the point where we get it, but it was like a try to help in this concept. And this is also why at the beginning the camera is much more like very simple and plain, and almost doesn't move, and all the scenes are filmed in one only shot, and there's not a lot of development because there's no possibility of development, because there's nothing to talk about, because she has nothing, she has no language to talk, and if there's no language to talk, there's no sense. Like we are what we can say, no? So somehow there's no sense to have longer scenes at the beginning, and then while she's getting into it, also the scenes are becoming longer and the camera starts to move. So we somehow try to do with the camera and all the visual language the same then as is happening to her in her process of arrival, and overcoming this acting of this new place. And
Could take maybe two more. Okay. I'll start way in the back.
If you would have a microphone, I would love to invite you to to tell what you think, but you're a little bit far away. I felt like we needed an open ending because this is a moment of Xiaobin's life, and this moment is already over, and the film is over, our shooting is over, and she continues with new things and already changed a lot in her life. So for me it was somehow like necessary to have this open ending where she's starting to take action, like to trap the cat somehow. There are also people who think that it's a very pessimistic ending, but that was something I learned in the Q&As. It was not supposed to be so.
So many readings.
Yeah, but she's catching the cat. She's not the one who's been catched. She's catching a cat. It's something else. No, there's she and there's the cat. And the car scene. Then there's another future with another ending, which is a little bit worse. But then there's another one. There's so many possibilities. Actually, the cat comes from a story another Chinese immigrant told me who felt very alone in Buenos Aires. So she started to go to the botanical garden where there are straw cats and tried to catch a cat with this kind of traps. But since the cat was not a trained cat, as in our film, which is the reason why it didn't jump out of the car, she didn't handle to catch the cat. So I found it very funny, but also very sad, and also I totally understood because I also got myself a cat when I moved to Buenos Aires and I felt lonely. So I commented it to Xiaobin, and she was wondering about the sense of this and told me, yeah, but why should I take care of a cat if I have to take care of myself? There's no one taking care of myself. I have to take care of myself. Why a cat? So this is how the cat showed up in the script, because I thought that it was a good element to discuss this kind of concepts of how to build your new life.
I have a quick question. When she's on the train in the beginning and kind of spacing out and staring at people, and you get these shots of different people, is Vijay's potential future wife one of those people? Does she get repeated later? And there are a couple of other people that maybe you see again?
Yeah, in the train, it's Vijay's future life. Actually, it was an actress because I needed someone who's crying. I don't know if you really see it because she's crying. Because I like this in the big cities, in the metros, that you travel and somehow it's inevitable that you cry on the train or that you see someone crying on the train and things like that. So I remember when I moved to Buenos Aires that it fascinated me a lot to watch the people in the train, and also the same is happening to me here in these days. So at that beginning I needed this actress because we had this crying element in the film. So for me it was her first moment of observing someone crying, and later on she's learning how to cry. And then, later when we needed the people for the futures, we thought that it was logical that the people who would act the futures would be people we saw before, because there's this theory when we dream that we never invent faces. Like people who would appear in your dreams would be people you've seen. So in that same way, for in all this system of her own ABC, it seemed logical to us to repeat characters she observed before. Yeah.
Okay, there's one last quick question. Yes, right there. Did you have to direct through a translator?
No, our speaking language was, our working language was Spanish. So this is also why at the beginning the process was very slow, because Xiaobin wasn't hardly speaking any Spanish when I first met her, which was 2-3 months after her arrival. But she increased very quick, and I thought that it was okay to work on things she would be able to tell me. On the other hand, we also did so many things where you feel like you become friends not by talking but by doing things and walking together or cooking together or eating or going to the movies together. But as I knew that the large part of the film would be text of a language manual, and I knew that I I wanted to have this strange acting tone that I referred to at the beginning in this theater school play. I didn't found it so difficult to. I didn't feel the need to have a translator, because it was not. I didn't have this psychological approach. But then at one point I found it necessary to have a moment for her where she can speak freely and really talk from her inside and not throughout the translation. So we developed this monologue that she has in Chinese. But at that moment she already spoke very well, so we developed the dialogue together in Spanish, and then she translated it, and yeah.
Okay, well, we really have to go, but thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you.